Welcome to the Successful Home Inspector Podcast, where we discuss everything you need to know about home inspection from A to Z. Brought to you by Preston Sandlin and Home Inspection Carolina. We're here to share some success stories and some not so successful stories. Some things we can all learn from, and maybe, just maybe, we can help each other and raise the profession. So sit back, turn up the volume, and enjoy. Now, here's your host of the Successful Home Inspector Podcast, Preston Sandlin.
Hey, home inspectors out there, I'm here to bring you a strategy that will increase your business, and it's easy. Go to homeinspectionflyers.com, get you 5 flyers, put your logo, your information, your testimonials in there, send them off to the printing company. Within a week, you get a box full of flyers at your door, ready to go. You've got all your marketing materials for the month. Take out flyer number 1, that whole how many offices you serve. Hit those offices with those flyers and candy, and hope you have candy bowls in those offices. I'm telling you, you will increase your business. Pick out some flyers you can get into. Again, homeinspectionflyers.com. Here's the formula. Homeinspectionflyers.com. Get the flyers, fix them up, send them off to get printed. They come to your door. You take them. You get candy. You go to the offices, and you will increase your business. Thanks for listening.
All right, listeners out there, I have a special treat for you today. I have a good buddy of mine I've known for quite a while, Tony Burk, with Accutech Home Inspections in Dayton. How you doing this morning, Tony?
Hey, Preston, how you been?
Good. For all you listeners out there, I owe Tony a big thank you. You're probably listening to this at different times, but I will tell you, it's 7 o'clock on Sunday morning. He agreed to do that, so thank you for joining us so early this morning, Tony.
Oh, no problem. Like I said, I already saw you post a picture on Facebook of some pancake art and everything, so I figured you were already up then.
All right. Well, cool. Well, Tony, tell us a little bit more about you, because we'd like to get to know you personally.
Well, 52, didn't get into this until about 11 years ago. This is my third career. As most everybody has said on the podcast, I don't think anybody gets into being a home inspector. So this is actually my third career. I was an Air Force officer for about 6 years. Got a master's in aeronautical sciences. So that doesn't come into effect about one time per inspection when I get to talk about the Bernoulli principle with ridge cap vents. But I was only in for about 6 years, 2 months and 23 days, if anybody's counting. But I was part of President Clinton's peace dividend back in 1992. So I was hoping to spend 20 years in, but didn't have that chance. I got rifted out as a captain in the Air Force. And my second career got into something totally different. Went into computer security. Became a Microsoft certified system engineer, CNA, CNAA, did network administration, worked my way up to being head of information security of a 5,000 person company. And, then of course, this, being the IT jobs, I kept getting downsized and outsourced and offshored and everything. So, in 2004, my job went to India and I had to train some guy in India to do my job.
Ouch.
Yeah. Well, it was one of those, we'll get rid of you today, but if you train this guy for 2 months to do your job, we'll keep you on for a little bit longer. So, but, I'm going, geez, what am I going to do? And I'm thinking, I need to find something that, the job is not going to disappear tomorrow. And, right. I looked back and I went, I took a lot of, like home building construction in 9th and 10th grade. I took architectural design and all through high school. I took a lot of architectural classes in college and, just kind of went, wow, this might be something to do. And my mom goes, we just bought a new house or anything. Why don't you try to be a home inspector? And I went, well, that kind of should be kind of fun, everything. So, basically on the money that we had saved up and everything, my wife's like, we need to have you find a job and everything. But what I did was, in 7 months, it took me to find another IT job. I went to school through AHIT and started doing home inspections after work. And I did IT work for about 3 more years, and when my job, once again, out at Wright-Patt Air Force Base went away, I just did 300 home inspections after work and on weekends.
Wow.
And, yeah. That was the year my wife was getting her degree, and luckily we don't have any kids, so we never saw each other that whole year. But I went, wow, I started talking to other home inspectors, and like, you did that many after work and after on the weekends? And I went, yeah, and I thought, might as well. So that's what I've been doing it full time since 2007, but actually from 2004 is when I started it then.
Okay, so you've been doing inspections since 2004. So let's see, it's almost 2016. So what, about 12 years? 11?
Yeah, 11 and a half now, yeah.
Now, tell us about some of the changes you've seen in those 11, 12 years.
Well,
Tony.
It was funny. When I went through AHIT, they actually had a class here in Dayton, Ohio, where I'm from, and I met one of the inspectors that had gone through it, and his wife was a realtor, and he was using a paper form, and Mike Kurtner, a good guy and everything, and he was nice enough to let me go out and shadow him for a couple of inspections and everything. And they always say, I'm not going to help you because you're going to hurt my business. But Mike was in the business for about another year and a half and everything, and never went to computers, never really got into anything new. But still a good guy, still keep in touch with him. I actually did his son's home inspection last year. It's kind of neat.
Oh, wow.
Do that, so that's kind of neat. And so that's probably the biggest thing is the technology part. We're doing some stuff that nobody else did. Back in 2007, I was the first person in Southern Ohio to do infrared, and that's been, I think, a good thing. I think it's good for the client. It's also good for us because it helps us identify things and maybe catch something we wouldn't have.
Absolutely. Well, and for all the listeners out there, Tony and I were talking in the pre-interview. He's got 5 computers in that room that he said he had to shut down because they're noisy when they're all. He built them all himself. So I think, Tony, you might have a unique. You might be uniquely qualified for that advantage of having that tech. Whatever is on the technical edge, I think you have the ability and the foresight and the brain power to jump on that. That gives you an advantage. Go ahead. I've always built all my computers and everything. Like I said, that's why my company's called AccuTech. I'm a techie geek at heart and everything. Just AccuGeek didn't sound that good. That was something I did also. I've always, worked 12 hours a day. I worked during the day doing IT stuff, and then at night I was teaching at some of the community colleges here in Dayton and everything, teaching computer classes, Microsoft classes, network classes and stuff. So, when I got into IT, or got out of IT and went into home inspections and everything, all of a sudden you're still working 12-hour days, especially in the summer, so it wasn't much of a big difference. I like to stay busy, so. I hear you. Well, doing, 300 plus home inspections part-time on top of a regular job, that's impressive and staying busy. Well, Tony, this next question that I'm going to get into, I know because you and I are buddies and we talk that you've struggled here, and most of our listeners have struggled here, and so have I. And there's nothing, before I ask this question, I want to say to all the listeners out there, there's nothing wrong with being a one-man home inspection show. There's many times that I wish I still was. When, I get a call and he said, what? He did what? And I'm like, oh my gosh. But I know that you're trying to hire, and you have, and you've had some frustrations there, and I think that'll be helpful and beneficial to our listeners because I think they're going through the same thing. And if people don't want to hire, that's okay too. But tell us about, I know you've hired, what was it like hiring the first guy? And take us there, and take it back there, and how do you stand now as hiring people and whatnot?
Well, something you really got to look deep inside because, unfortunately, when you first start out, no matter what your name of your company is, it's still, I'm calling Preston, I'm calling Dave, I'm calling Tony. It's always going to be, half the time they can't remember your name of your company. It's just, I know I'm going to call my guy. And, so, for years and years, I did it by myself and everything. But, also I went for about 7 years, I guess, without taking a vacation and everything. And,
right.
and so if you watch me on Facebook and everything, I think I live for vacations now. So that was one of the big things to do. A couple of years ago, I had an agent and everything. She was gangbusters and everything, and I went on vacation, and she needed 3 inspections that week, and she found some guy right out of school, and I lost that person. I lost over 100 inspections from her if I would have had her last 2014. So,
that hurts.
Yeah, so those types of things are, you go, wow, what if I could have? And so, I talked to a lot of multi-inspector owners like you, and just to say, what am I getting myself into and everything? And
sure.
At one time, our friend Ken said, do you want to be a home inspector, or do you want to be a business owner? And at that point in time, the light bulb finally came on, and it's like, if I ever want to sell this, it's kind of like a drywall hanger. If you try to sell the business, you are the business. There's nothing to sell. And
right.
So what do I need to do to develop the processes, the procedures of doing that? And since I used to be a program manager in the Air Force, I used to run $150 million projects and everything. I thought, okay, that's what I really want to do. I'll tell you, I spent almost 41 hours between Thanksgiving until about a week ago cleaning up my ISN database. I keep it clean every year. We went to ISN about 2 years ago, but
right.
And I went through and I created the database, and of course I have a virtual assistant, and every month she adds all the new agents. But you got to clean that up at least once a year, just because who's quit, especially who's changed from one office to another. And by the way, when they did that, they changed their email, and about every 2 or 3 years they changed their phone number. And it took 41 hours to go through 2,000 agents, look every one of them up so that they're correct. And I'll tell you, being kind of a big geek and everything, that for me is more fun than getting out and doing stuff just because it's something I can control. I can do it when I feel like it and everything. But it's also something very important, because if you're going to be doing a lot of marketing, sending out a lot of mailers, things like that, you've got to have a clean database and everything. Because if you don't, all you're going to do is get a ton of stuff back. It says mail undeliverable or whatever, and that's money lost and everything. So a lot of kind of way to answer the question or thing, but that type of stuff really, I really enjoy a lot more than other things, and like our friend Ken said, find out what you like and everything. A lot of people, they try to outsource everything they can, and he's like, hey, I don't like mowing the lawn. I'm going to find a guy who likes to mow the lawn, and I'll pay him.
Right,
other things
sure.
That, so that's what I really tried to do over the last 2 or 3 years. I always try to do at least 1 or 2 major projects each year. This is one you got to do. So, it's a lot of people may not think about that, especially if you're new to using ISN. It's always garbage in, garbage out. So if you don't keep that up, that the database will quickly become an issue, and you've lost money when you've got a bunch of stuff that never gets to the people you're trying to get to.
Sure. No, I agree with you totally, Tony. And, I've always said this, I told my wife and everything, we get multiple lists of agents. Here in North Carolina, you can buy them from the Realtor Association. You can get the list. Basically, it comes as it comes in some form, but you can make it an Excel spreadsheet, of all their addresses, their phone numbers, email. But no matter what list you have, if it's more than 3 or 4 months old, it's going to have 20 or 30%.
Exactly.
Incorrect, because they jump companies. They jump. Fortunately now, thank goodness, I think a lot of the cell phone people let you keep your own number. That helps. But a lot of them will have so and so at kw.com. Well, obviously, if they go to Weichert or Allen Tate or another one of those, they're not going to have Joe Smith at kw.com. So that changes. And you're right. It is a full-time job trying to keep an accurate database. Yeah. And I hate doing that stuff. So I was sitting here thinking while you were saying that, we ought to work out a barter. I will come and go marketing for you in Dayton if you will update my database. It's different personality types, but I would rather pull my fingernails out.
Yeah, to buy those. I tried to buy that from our DABR, the Dayton Area Board of Realtors, but they don't sell that and everything. And about 3 or 4 years ago, I actually bought a list, but it was like $150. But by the time I looked at it, I'm like, this is terrible. It had their home addresses. It was basically kind of a screen scrape. That's IT term. Of just where they got the information from, and it was really incorrect. So that's one of the things that you really have to do. And and like you said, that doesn't pertain to you. To me, it's something I could just do all day and everything. But it's so important if you're going to start doing a lot of mailers. If you if you want to be able to have a good database and everything for new agents and things like that, that's what you got to do and everything. But I think that's something a lot of home inspectors probably either never thought of, or they just hey, we'll add it as we add people, and that's what it is.
Well, and what we've learned, it's painstakingly, but if you go to usually the realtor's website, whatever company it is, KW, Coldwell Bank, or whatever, theirs are pretty accurate because they're pretty quick to put their new people on there and take the old people off. So that, we would pay somebody, or we would do it just to sit there and go to each realtor's website. I mean, real estate company office. Let me rephrase that. Real estate office, and just go through and, but you got to do it every 2 or 3 months, or else you're going to probably have a 20 or 30% inaccuracy or bounce rate, or whatever you want to call it, return rate on your postage, depending on what type of marketing you're doing. Well, switching gears here just a little bit, Tony, because I like to keep it fresh and keep it off center. Do you have a success quote you could share with us?
Sure. I've actually got 2 and everything. I mean, Preston, you know me for a long time, and Meg follows my non-Accutech Facebook page and everything. But the first one is, whatever you do, do it well. Do it so well that when people see you do it, they will want to come back and see you do it again, and they will want to bring others and show them how well you do what you do. And that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's from Walt Disney, and if anybody knows me, I'm a big Walt Disney fan. I mean, that's my happy place and everything. And then, I mean, most of the stuff he's got, I mean, it's all positive. Since all the all the adversity I've had in my life, all my troubles and obstacles have strengthened me. You may not realize it when it happens, but a kick in the teeth may be the best thing in the world for you. And it really, really kind of, dawns on you, like, hey, if he would have not had those types of things, if he wouldn't have had the structure of his brother Roy to, he ran the books and Walt was the dreamer. You've got to have both those types of people to really succeed. And so I tend to kind of live my life according to Walt a lot. To my wife's detriment as far as how much Disney stuff I have. But it really makes sense on some of the different quotes and everything. So.
No, that's great. That's great. And I think you're exactly right. I'm the dreamer, and my wife keeps the books in our relationship.
Oh yeah. I mean, I know you guys both. I mean, it's exactly true. I mean, my wife's the same way and everything. She's the grounded person, and I'm the one who's charging windmills with but it works and everything. I mean, you've got to have both, otherwise. Sure.
Yeah, sometimes she has to pull in the reins, but sometimes every once in a while I come up with a good idea. But I come up for every good idea, I probably have about 90 bad ones.
Well, but I mean, that's all you need is one good one. I mean, it's really the way you just But how many times did Dyson, the guy who developed the vacuum cleaner, he said, it took us over 2,000 designs to prove that the Dyson vacuum cleaner worked. He says, I know 1,999 ways how to not build it correctly.
Awesome.
But it's true. That's how you really need to keep doing. But what if you gave up a long time ago or something? So I mean, that's perseverance there.
Cool. No, I like that. I'm going to go off script here for just a second, Tony, but I just thought about this too. Talk about inventors and things. I'm a big, I love history. I'm a big history buff, and I'm a big North Carolina history buff. And I just thought about this, you being from Dayton, weren't Orville and Wilbur Wright from Dayton and owned the bicycle shop? You know, they came down here to obviously the first flight was here at Kitty Hawk because I think it was the winds and the Outer Banks and the sand dunes. But they were actually from they owned a bicycle shop in Dayton, Ohio, correct?
Yeah. In fact, over last Memorial Day, if you go downtown, it's called a place called Caroline Park, and they've recreated the downtown, and that's where they have the bicycle shop, and they have one of the Wright Flyers and everything. And we always joke, you know, we designed it here, but we needed a lot of hot air to get the plane up the air. We had to go down to But you know, I mean, it's really neat. I mean, you know, Dayton used to be, you know, a huge. I mean, we were second only to Detroit in machine shop and also automotive. I mean, if you've heard of Delco, you know, like Delco radios for GM, that stands for Dayton Electric Company. You know, Moraine, which is part of our town, Moraine is Delco Moraine Brakes. You know, the Kettering, where I used to live, I live in Sugar Creek now, but Charles Kettering was the guy who developed the electric starter for Cadillac. So, I mean, Dayton has a lot of background here, and it's, you know, it's interesting that they've got a neat building down at the Caroline Park and everything, but it kind of shows how Dayton is a kind of a has-been. You know, a lot of the stuff that's happened, you know, now everything's overseas, or you know, it's just not the you know, the hands-on factory worker type career fields like they used to have. It's more IT and everything, a lot more advanced everything, especially with Wright Pat. I mean, I've worked at Wright Pat and had to do a lot of neat things out there and everything. But you know, they've had to transition a lot. You know, I mean, we're part of the Rust Belt, so a lot of things have moved out of, you know, let's move to a nicer, warmer climate and everything. So Dayton's had a hard time. I'll tell you, when everybody went through the real estate crush in 2008, Dayton, Ohio actually started. We went in the toilet in about 2006. And so you know, we knew what was coming and everything, but in 2008 when the market crashed, we were still in it, but we kind of came out of it a little bit earlier than everybody else, but we also got into it earlier too.
Sure. Yeah, I think Dayton is a big manufacturer. In fact, aren't a lot of those wagons or something that you see, like Dayton Flyer or something like that? I swear I think I've seen
that. You're talking the little red wagon. That's a radio flyer. Radio
flyer. Okay, I might be mistaken. Yeah. I did want to back up on one thing though before we move on. And I know we're sort of veering off home inspection, but I have ADD, you know, squirrel.
Same way. My wife. Yeah, exactly.
But for any of the listeners who are out there, if you read the story about Orville and Wilbur Wright, it's fantastic, and it very much parallels, in one sense, the story of you know, the spirit of St. Louis. I can't even think. Lindbergh. Thank you. And what I mean by that is they were both of those. They were outsiders. As far as, like, they weren't the people who were thought to be, like, the person who was first going to be in flight. I mean, Wilbur and Orville were like these outsiders that had an outside chance. There was a government-funded, it starts with an L. It's the name of the airport where in Washington, Langley. Langley was the front runner who thought that all the money was on Langley to be the first in flight. Because he had a lot of support from the government, lots of, you know, and here were these two guys that owned the bicycle shop. They were kind of like the outsider in the race to flight. They were kind of like the long shot, you know what I mean? And I think it was very similar. If you ever read the story of Charles Lindbergh, same thing. I mean, you know, that was a race to cross the Atlantic nonstop. You know, and he was kind of the outside. I mean, you know, history now we think of it as a you know, a done deal, but at the time they were both long shots to be the person to. And the Lindbergh thing was actually a contest. I think it was like $25,000 or something. But I mean, everybody spent way more than that to try to do this, but. Anyway, sorry I got off on a tangent.
Well, no, but you're right. Look at the outsiders, you know. I mean, you know, the big three says we're the only, you know, the automotive company, you know, we're the only ones who can build a car. But you look at Elon Musk, you know, the guy has no background in, you know, I mean, the guy created PayPal. But, and then he's like, I'm going to build cars. Now I'm building spaceships. I mean, it takes sometimes an outsider to shake up the status quo and, or the oligopoly, of, 2 or 3 companies that says we're the only ones who can do this. We only have the brain trust. We have the power. We've got the manufacturing. But sometimes it's the guy that, like you said, tinkering in his garage is the person who can change the world.
Absolutely. So everybody out there listening, if you're an outsider, you're a good company. You're a good company. Well, bringing it back to home inspection, Tony, let's say that I'm a buyer or real estate agent in or around Dayton, Ohio. There are other inspectors in your market. Why should I hire you? Is there something you do that others don't?
Well, I mean, in 2007, like I said, I was the first home inspector to do infrared. I beat one guy by about a month or so. The other thing I tried to do was in 2013, I was the first person to have a drone. I know you and I bought a drone about the same time and everything. Haven't really used it that much, I think, but we've also tried to do is I have something called the 5-star package that nobody else has. It's really tough to differentiate yourself. I mean, the last thing I want to differentiate myself is hey, I'm the cheapest guy in town, because let's face it, the cheapest guy in town is always the new guy right out of school. And he has no idea how much it really costs to do home inspections. And it frustrates me to no end when somebody goes, especially when the realtor goes, well, they went with this guy because he's cheaper. And I'm like, well, you picked him. And, I know the realtor knows how much money that the person has, but, I'm just like, the guy may do a good home inspection, but, 4 out of 5 businesses fail in the first year. All you've done is open up the realtor's liability, because if the guy's not around, who else has insurance? Oh, the realtor does if there's a problem. So, that's something that, I don't want to be known as. I'd rather, I'd rather be the Cadillac in town than the Chevette and everything. But, not they're both good transportation and everything, but I'd rather be able to give more, and charge just a little bit more than give a lot more. That's what we've done with the 5-star package. We've also tried to, develop a lot of relationships with some of the different offices, but and as we'll talk about, some of the frustrations later, I think, it's really tough lately with a lot of the offices, because let's face it, you walk in and it's a ghost town. Very few offices in Dayton. I'm always surprised when you're always doing a lot of lunch and learns and bringing food to the offices, because we just don't have that here. Some of the offices meet once a month and they get 10 to 15, maybe 20% of the agents there. They might have a quarterly meeting or something, and it's very difficult for us to do that. So I've really tried to think outside the box, but I'm always, that's why I belong to several different organizations that you do, just to try to come up with those outside ideas that, might be able to give you an inside step in trying to develop your business, grow more, and then also get more inspections.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you on that. I'm totally with you. Well, let me switch gears here just a little bit. I know I'm going to ask you what you do in your spare time, but this is a guy who worked full-time job and did 300 home inspections in part-time. I know he didn't have a whole lot of spare time, but if you had spare time, what would you do? And tell us something that most people don't know about you, Tony.
Well, let's see. I try to read a lot. It's funny, if you looked at my Amazon Prime books, it's like 1 month I read a Disney book. The next book, and the next month will be.
I have too. I laugh because I have too. No, Disney is innovator.
If you looked at it, it says economic collapse, economic apocalypse fiction. So I'm reading about the coming economic collapse, and then I try to go to my happy place reading about the Sherman Brothers, who developed wrote a lot of the neat songs from like Mary Poppins, like that. And then the next book will be something like The Walking Dead. Okay, how do you prep yourself to be a survivalist? And then I'll go back and read something about how to run your business the Disney way. And then I'll go back again to some book that talks about what happens when the market crashes and we're in a worldwide depression. So it's weird. I kind of try to average that out and everything to kind of get back to the happy place and everything. But that's the type of stuff I like to do. So I like to read a lot. Something you may not know about me at all, if you look on my my non-Accutech page, but my personal page, I collect old cars. You and I've talked about it a little bit. Right now I've got 2 Camaros. I've built a supercharged Mustang. I used to drag race and autocross, but that's usually a summertime activity, and of course
Right.
that's when we're enthusiasts. So, I like to build computers and everything. So I've got 3 little corgis, if you know what those are. So those are our little fur kids. But that's really, when I come home, I just want to kind of chill out, read and just kind of play around the house and everything. But unfortunately, if I had more time, and I'm trying to do that by growing the business and bringing in more inspectors, I'd like to be able to get back into doing some Friday night cruises and stuff like that. I just don't have the time for it right now.
I hear you, Tony. Well, I've seen pictures of the 2 Camaros, and they are sweet. What's the convertible, isn't it? Now, are they late 60s? What year are they?
Yeah, both of them are 68 Camaros. One is a big block 33 factory options. I bought that through a collector dealer when I was stationed in Phoenix. If you've ever heard of Barrett Jackson Auctions, the car went through Barrett Jackson back in 88 or 89, something like that. So I've had it for a long time, and then I bought another one. It was funny. I went to go buy a 68 black on black on black GTO convertible, and the guy says, "Hey, I saw that you had a Camaro that's butternut yellow. I've got one like that in the back." And so I bring home a different car than my wife thought, and she's like, she goes, "You are so predictable. Instead of buying something totally different, you buy something that's the same color. The only difference is one's a small block, which is a smaller engine, versus a big block." And I'm like, I said, "Well, look at it this way. Now I've got most of the parts I can use on one, I can use on the other." But she's like, you don't think outside the box and come out with something, totally different. I'm like, well, when I owned a Mustang convertible and a Camaro, that's like, if you guys are from this part of the country, that's like having a family and the husband for Ohio State and the wife's from Michigan. There's a house divided.
Right.
And it's hilarious. It's like, how could you drive a Mustang and then also own a Camaro?
Yeah.
It's kind of like women. They're all beautiful and but they're just slightly different and everything. But
sure. Well, you're close to Detroit, so it's like you're either a GM guy or a Ford guy or something, right? So you can't. Now, on a side note there, have you ever, and this is an idea, but I don't know how much business you get from it, but have you ever thought about, like, putting them in a parade, or have you done anything like that? Because they're beautiful cars.
I've done a couple, but I'll tell you, boy, the last thing you want to do is when you've got a big block and you're driving 3 miles an hour for 45 minutes and you're going, please don't overheat,
Oh, so, that would be a good.
Not to do that. Yeah, I've done it before. I've also owned about 4 or 5 custom pickup trucks that were all modified and everything, and those are a lot easier to take care of because, they're just, they're also, 5 to 10 years old versus something that's, almost 50 years old. And
sure. Well, and my dad collects cars, and he spent a lot of money on them, and I love them. But I know this from experience. So let me preface this. I thought sometimes about buying like an old late 40s, early 50s Chevy and redoing a truck, kind of like the Windstream commercial you see. And doing it in my colors and just, making it awesome. And, be an advertising piece, driving around to inspections and stuff like that. But I also know, because my dad collected old cars, and I love old cars, but you got to realize everything on that car is 60, 70 years old. And you may have rebuilt the engine. You may have done all this, but, there's a spring that's 70 years old. What I'm getting at is, I don't think it could be your everyday car and you can't drive it because there's always a possibility of you got to baby it. I love them. Don't get me wrong, but it can't be your everyday car.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So.
Exactly. But to paraphrase, along with home inspections and everything, when you're doing a car or you're trying to bring out something new with your company, it always takes twice as long as you think, twice as much money as you think. There's, the more you tear into it, the more you realize there's so much other stuff you haven't done yet to make that work. It's, just like I say, going to a multi-inspector firm, you think, oh, I just need to put a thing on Craigslist and I'll hire somebody and he'll follow me around and then he'll be making me money. And it's like, no. You've got to have a game plan. The convertible, it's funny, I took it into the body shop. Let's see, today's the 13th. Tomorrow will be 33 months that car has been in the body shop. And well, here's the thing. I wanted them to do a little bit of paint work. I wanted them to replace the rear taillight electrical wiring harness. But to do that, you got to pull the seat. So I thought, okay, I'll pull the seat, get those redone. Hey, the carpeting's 40 years old. We'll replace the carpeting. Right now, that car has sat for almost a year and a half with no floorboard because the floorboard was in good shape from what we could see, but when we pulled that out, it had a lot of pinholes. So, you think, oh yeah, it's going to be, it'll be done in 2 weeks. But, here we are. Tomorrow will be 33 months, 3 summers. But, and so when you are, if you're a home inspector, especially a single, inspector, and you want to go to multi-inspector firm, you've got to have a game plan. You've got to, like I said, you really need to plan it out. I mean, you have to write an employee handbook. You're shocked to find out how much paperwork for workman's comp comes out. Gosh darn, after I started getting paperwork from the Bureau of Workman's Comp, it's like, why did I decide to do this? I mean, yeah. So the analogy is when you start to do this, there's a lot more work than you think. And the best thing to do is work with either, somebody like you who's done that and everything successfully, or work with a mentor that has the plans. It's just like when if you decide to go with, buying a franchise for a home inspection firm, or if you're buying McDonald's, the thing is they're trying to sell you a process that has worked versus, I bought a laptop and I've got a software program and I got my tools and now I just need to get a website. There's a lot more to do and everything, and, it's always easier to, learn from somebody else who's been through that, has, done the take 1 step forward and 5 steps back, and I think that really is something that I've learned, and I still have stumbled a lot and everything, but I think it's been a good process and something to learn.
Sure. Well, and what you're talking about there, with all the workman's comp and the paperwork and all this stuff and regulation and stuff, you start to realize why manufacturing jobs have left. I mean, fortunately for us, you can't really outsource a home inspection because the house is here.
Well, after seeing what some of these guys have done, I'm paranoid that how many years from now there'll be some guy in India with a little drone going through the house saying, "Oh, I found a leak underneath the sink," and
there you go. It might have. I know we're going to get back on track here. We both have ADD. I was listening to. I listened to John Boy and Billy. They're a morning show. I'm sure people listen to a lot of morning shows. And they had this skit where this guy's calling one of those numbers, you know what I mean? Like, one of those numbers like phone, hello, this is Alba.
I've heard that. I have heard. Yeah, I know what you mean.
And he's like, you don't sound like Amber.
Yeah.
And it's like when outsourcing goes bad. That outsourced the phone, no. But anyway, let's get this show back on track. Well, Tony, you know as well as I do that if you do enough home inspections, you're going to have an unhappy camper. How do you handle an unhappy camper? Do you have a process? What's that look like?
Yeah, I've got a couple of different ones, that's evolved over the years. I'll tell you, nothing freaks me out when I get an email from the office that says, please call, and it shows that the inspection was from about 2 to 3 months ago.
Yeah.
You hope that, you hope that it's either, the something fell through, or we need you for another inspection, or, hey, my brother-in-law's buying a house, can you do it? But let's face it, most of the time that's not going to be it. So when I see the word call, it's just, But what we do is we have several different processes. The first thing is do your homework before you ever call them.
Right.
Look at the pictures, look at the report, just call them and go, what's going on? Then we also have basically a conflict resolution process where the person, after we've talked to them, we send them, actually it's on our website now, that they can go out and give us more information. Who did you talk to? What was their credentials? Did you do a final walkthrough in the inspection? Final walkthrough. How long have you lived here? Was it something you just found? That's the type of stuff you need to know because, and then also, we have, our 5-star package where they have a 100-day inspection warranty, things like that. So, then we turn that over to them. We also have Joe Ferry and Joe We Trust. So if it goes beyond that, so we've tried to build multiple, I don't like to use the word defenses, but, we have multiple things so that, if we can't make them happy, with one phone call, what would be the next thing we would do and everything? Because, sometimes, when it's that please call question, all I want to do is just, hey, like somebody called up and this happened on Tuesday. The guy says, hey, we just removed our carpeting. We've been here for about 2 months and we found some deteriorated OSB underneath the carpeting. And I said, where? And he goes, oh, right around the sliding back door. And I went, I wrote up that there was a problem with the sliding back door and it looked like it was deteriorated and rotted. He goes, oh yeah, we had somebody come out and fix it. And I went, well, did he pull back the carpeting? Because it sounds like when he was fixing it, that would have been the time to fix the OSB. He goes, yeah, you're right. One phone call, he was happy, I helped him out and everything. But, sometimes, it's something a little bit more. So you've got to kind of have it's kind of like a layer of onions. You've got you've got to kind of have that next, what happens next to. So, but once again, you've got to have a process because the less you want to do is you're going, that's not going to help, the client and, that's when they get upset. That's when they start calling other people that you don't want to meet sometime down the road.
Sure. And, some of those contractors will throw you under the bus, and we'll get into that. Speaking of things we'll get into, we're going to get into some highs and lows. But first, Tony, let's take a pause for.
Hey, home inspectors out there, I'm going to tell you a creative, inexpensive way to increase your business massively. Go to homeinspectionflyers.com and get the flyers. You get 5 flyers a month. You customize them to yourself. They're turnkey, they're creative, and it's $29 a month for 5 flyers. That's less than $6 a flyer. And they are done by yours truly, Preston Sandlin. And I am a creative guy, especially when I don't take my medication. But I come up with some crazy stuff. It works for my business. I went from 1 inspector to 7 inspectors with this strategy alone. So again, for $29.95, you get 5 flyers. I do 1 per week. I send them off to get copied on the internet. I can get them for about 7 cents a piece, and I put them out in the boxes when I do my candy run. Works fantastic. homeinspectionflyers.com. Thanks.
All right. Well, I am back here with my buddy Tony from Accutech Inspections in Dayton, Ohio. Tony, tell us about a time when you failed. Take us there, and what you learned from it.
Well, as I was telling you, I walked up to my wife a while ago and said, boy, since you never forget anything I ever do wrong, can you tell me when I failed? And she goes, we don't have enough time. President's calling you in a minute. So, when have I failed? I mean, every day I fail and everything, did you do the best job you could, things like that. Did I fail making some bad decisions? Yeah. Chris, my friend, he's my termite guy and everything. When he broke off from his father-in-law, I bankrolled him to start his business and everything. Great decision. Pay me back and very quickly and everything. I brought on his brother, who had done a bunch of home inspections, both in Florida and here in Dayton, and he didn't have a car because some financial issues. So, I always, remember, it's kind of like when when your kid turns 16, and I saw that, your daughter just got her permit yesterday, so.
She did. She did.
But,
got a place in the yard already where she ran off the driveway.
Yeah.
Anyway.
but I always said, if you just give something to somebody, they won't take care of it as well. So I came up with this harebrained idea of basically loaning him the money to buy a car. And his brother, Chris, said, well, why don't we put it, write it down and everything and say that, you will do a home inspection the first one of the week. Well, I'll get reimbursed. Well, he did 34 inspections for me. So far, I've paid out $4,100 in bad problems that he caused. And then he also left my company, sold the car, and now I'm out about $11,000. So, we're going to be taking steps next year to take care of that. But, it was one of those things where I thought it was a good idea. I was trying to help somebody out, and, somebody took advantage of me. And so is that a fail? Yeah. Could I have done it a lot of different ways? Trust me, my wife reminds me of that all the time. But, but I thought it was the best way to help my business, help out, one of my best friends, Chris, his brother, I think. And, unfortunately, this person, didn't feel that way and everything. So, that's something that, I'll never do again. Trust me. If I did, my wife probably disowned me, but, it just, think about what you do on some of these things, especially when loaning money to people, because, all of a sudden it's not a loan, it's a gift or something, so.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with it. We talked in the pre-interview about this. I've had similar things, and I've heard a quote, what is it? Nothing will,
no good deed goes unpunished.
Well, that's a good one. And there's something about there's no better way to lose a friend than loan them money or go into business with them. and I've found that to be true as well.
Yeah.
But anyway, well, on the other end of the spectrum, Tony, tell us about it. I had this as I made it moment, but I don't like that because we're always working on it. How about I've come a long way moment? Have you had one of those, like maybe when you go on vacation now?
Well, yeah. Like I said, I was planning several years ago to, be able to bring on that, multi-inspector firm and everything. And unfortunately, I was not up to that point when I lost a very good agent and everything. But, we are up to 2 inspectors besides myself. I'm getting ready to train another. So that'll put us at 4. There's one other company in Dayton that's got 4. So, there's the goal inside is not to be, the biggest. It's just the one that's doing the best inspections with the least amount of worries, liabilities, and other issues you got to take care of. That was one of the things you and I have talked about. Just, and I've talked to my mentor too, Ken. I said, geez, if I get, X number of phone calls, police calls per year with me, how many is it going to be with, with multiple people? And, it's truly, they always say that, nobody tries to do as good a job as you because it's your business or thing. But I found a couple of guys so far and everything, they really are doing a good job. They really take their job serious. They want to do a good job and everything because they saw how hard, it took for me. I mean, I think the only person that could appreciate it more would be a home inspector that had tried it themselves, saw how tough it was, and then went to work for a multi-inspector firm and everything.
No, I think you're dead on. In fact, I know a lot of people probably think that, like, I'm trying to be the biggest or whatever, and I'm not. You ask any of my guys, it's always, in the focus of the meeting is to have, our goal is to have the best reputation and give the most value. And all that other stuff will take care of itself. If you just focus on that. And that's our goal. In fact, I wanted to say that, I forgot, back when you were talking about, you don't want to compete on price or be the lowest price, because that's a race to the bottom. So for all the listeners out there, if you're getting challenged, when they call you, well, so-and-so will do it for this or that, don't drop your price. Add more value. Do they do a radon? Do they have E&O insurance? Do they have blah, 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 blah? Because when you really look at it, sometimes the more expensive one's actually the better value for what you're getting. You know what I mean? And like you said, what's the opportunity? I've been around for 20 years now. This guy's been in business for a year. If something goes wrong 3 years from now, who do you think is more likely to, like you said, what is there, like a 70 or 80% failure rate in new businesses? Who's probably going to still be around? So, is it worth $25 more? Probably, easily.
Well, I'm about $40 to $45 more expensive, but with that, they're getting a 5-year roof protection plan, 90-day sewer guard, 90-day mold safe, recall check for life, concierge program, 100-day warranty. That's about a $400 package right there. That if they bought that and everything, and all of a sudden, that $40 doesn't sound like much. But the hardest part is first of all getting the realtor to realize that, getting the realtor to realize that they, that's in their best interest, because if that person's happy, they're going to tell, one or two other people. If they're unhappy, the old adage, they'll tell 10 people. And so we've just increased the referrals. We've reduced their liability along with our liability, and we have a happy client. All of a sudden, it's a win-win-win for everybody. And it's hard to get that through a lot of realtors' heads because, let's face it, the realtors they've got so much stuff to do. I mean, every year there's more paperwork they got to do. It's harder for people to get loans and everything. I mean, the realtors are so busy that they're trying to keep all the balls that they have up in the air, and, we're just one little ball there and everything. But if we can help them, it's going to be in their best interest, in our best interest, in the clients. And that's what I wish they would really be able to understand. But it's an uphill battle, but that's something that I want to be able to have more time to do, more like what you're doing. And that's why I developed, decided to go with a multi-inspector firm so that I can spend that time to show them the value that it's to them, not just our client.
Yeah. Tony, you know what, I still encounter that problem with the price shopping. I tell you the way, and it doesn't always work. If somebody is still price shopping after everything you say, let them go. Because they're also going to be the first one to call, whenever the sink drips or something 6 months from now, even though it's worked fine for the past 6 months. But, I always give them the example. I'm like, well, let me ask you something. If you had to have eye surgery, would you want the cheapest eye surgeon you could find, or would you want the best? and most people would always say the best. This is your eyesight. I mean, critical thing that you need to drive and everything else. Well, let me ask you something. Why would you want the cheapest guy for the largest investment? I mean, because a home is, I saw something, 99% of people, that's their largest investment is their home.
Oh, yeah. So
why would you, that should be like your eyes. This is the largest, probably the single most, do you want the cheapest guy? Do you trust that with the largest investment in your life? Or do you want the best or the person who's giving you more value? So, a lot of times, when then, lead into your radon and all your warranties and years of experience and all that sort of stuff. So, but if there's still a price shot, we don't want to be a commodity. That's the thing. Go ahead.
Yeah. I think, I think if the realtor said, by the way, you're going to have to spend this much money and everything for, an inspection, and termite, radon, chimney, all that other stuff. Because I think what happens is, they're right, first of all, they've got buyer's remorse on. I'm spending $400,000 for a house. I just wrote a check for X number of thousands of dollars for earnest money, and and I think they just by the time they finally get to us, they're worn out, and they're just like, oh God, more money. And but I mean, you try to tell them this is the best money you'll spend. But after a while, I mean, I understand. I mean, we just sold our last rental property and everything, and you get your hopes up as a buyer, that this is a great house, and then by the time they get to us, they are just worn out, and I think that's just
No, it's a good point.
Yeah, I think it's just that's where we're at and everything, and all we can do is say we're here to help, and this is fine.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. Well, Tony, do you have a favorite book you could recommend to our listeners? So what is it about the book that appeals to you?
Well, it's the Survivalist Guide for the coming economic apocalypse. No, I'm just joking. No,
wow.
No, I'm not that pessimistic. No, actually, it took me 2 years to make it through, but Atlas Shrugged.
I love it.
I know somebody else, one of the other podcasts did that. I mean, it took me 2 years. That was my go-to vacation book, and it kind of shows how the whole engine of prosperity and innovation got shut down, and in the just the overpowering government, coming out with saying there's more, there's more stuff, and and we're trying to make things fair for you. And I'll tell you, reading that book now, if I would have read that book before I started my business, I probably never would have started it, just because, let's face it, it's not that tough for us, but and most of us have less than 50 employees, so that's when it gets crazy for the amount of paperwork that the government asks. But boy, oh boy, it really shows that how, the best thing is if government gets out of the way and lets the innovators do this, we can kind of come out and figure out about anything. It's just one of those books that was kind of a life-changing, experience for me when I read this. Because it's like, yes, that's exactly how I feel and can understand, why, in the last couple of years there's been less business created just because it's impossible to. So.
I love Dagny Taggart.
Oh yeah.
Favorite books. There's a movie. Have you seen the movies? There's it's not as good as the book, obviously.
Well, they made all 3 movies on a strict shoestring budget. In fact, Dagny is played by 3 different women in 3 different movies.
Yeah.
And it's tough considering that, there's 200 pages. Oh, actually, it's about 90 pages at the end of the 2,000-page book, or that is when John Galt is giving the speech and everything that you just read every sentence and go, yeah. But they can make the 3rd or 4th movie just in that little section of him standing up talking about, here's what is wrong with the world and here's what we need to do. And the book is better than the movies. The movies just didn't have the money to make it. And otherwise, it would also been about a 30-hour movie too, so to really do it right.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that note too, have you ever read Fountainhead? And there's actually an old movie, I think from the 30s or 40s about it. Yeah. Again, not quite as good, but not bad either.
I've not seen the movie, but I have read the book years ago. But it took, it was shug. Like I said, you're not going to read it in one sitting.
Right. And for all the listeners out there, it's Ayn Rand or Ayn Rand. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right. I love all of her stuff. Her history, if I'm not mistaken, is she was from Russia originally. Yeah. During, when basically they were turning socialist, and I think her family lost all the stuff they had worked for and whatnot because it became government property, and she came to the United States, and she is a champion for entrepreneurship and capitalism, and a very kind of futuristic about, you better be careful what the government's doing because that's, what they did in my country. And if you read a lot of her books, I mean, not to try to get too deep, but you're reading about fictional characters, but it's a really, there's an inside story and each person represents something, and you could probably read it 5 times and get something new out of it each time. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah. And if you also look at it, there's one particular executive order that if you look at what that executive order and what's going on in today, there's a lot of similar things happening, a lot of them. So.
No, I'm big at Ayn Rand. Ayn Rand, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it.
It's Ayn Rand.
Big fan. Well, let's see. Now, we talked a little bit about some of the changes we've seen, and I know you're big on technology. How do you think, and hopefully the thing about the guy in India doing it with a drone isn't going to come to fruition, but how would you, if you had to guess, how would you predict home inspections may change in the future, Tony?
Well, I mean, that's going to be tough or anything because, the houses are changing and everything, but, how many times have you inspected solar panels? I mean, I've seen one, and over 4,000 inspections. I guess a good example would probably be that I'm starting to see a lot more geothermal.
Sure.
So, a lot of it's just going to be evolutionary, not revolutionary. A lot of houses are being built a lot more, like we do all the Ryan Homes from Dayton and everything. And, those are all built in a factory and basically assembled. But it's not to the point that the Japanese build it where, it's still kind of stick built. Just all the walls and everything are built in a factory to a lot better standard. But, if you look the way the Japanese build, basically it's a room and a kitchen and everything. And basically it's like, it's put together in a day or two. And I think that's going to be a little bit of some changes and everything. I think a lot of the changes are going to be more of just, more insulation, higher efficiency, things like that. So that's not going to really affect us a lot, but I think that we're going to need, the biggest thing is just trying to keep up with CEUs, watching
Sure.
what's coming out. I mean, you still don't see a ton of tankless water heaters. But, it's basically still heats water and everything. There's still either a gas line or electric. So it's, there's going to be little changes there, but it's still going to be pretty well the same thing as far as, it's different technology, but it's still doing the same end result.
Right. Well, and they just had that big environmental power conference in Paris or something. So, in the future we're trying to get away from fossil fuels. I don't know if that will come to fruition or not, but I'm sure that will manifest itself in the housing industry too. If more government mandates. I mean, although, we all want to save the planet, but I don't know. I'm a little skeptical of why some stuff's being done and who's making money on this.
Well, if you want to get it, look at Google Agenda 21, and then Glenn Beck's written a couple of fictional books kind of talking about where Agenda 21 goes. But also there's Agenda 2030, which is the UN's pushing. It's got some really interesting things that can be very, very scary at what they're trying to do. But, if you look at it, it all sounds like, all we want to do is have green space, and we want to, just do it. It sounds all nice at the top, and then you start reading a lot more, and then you find out there's a lot more nefarious things built in as far as, need to go everybody living in high-rise apartments instead of people having houses and stuff. But that might be hundreds of years, but they're saying 2030 on this.
Well, and it's great to have green space and all that, but if nobody has a job, that's, I know we could get off on that tangent. But
yeah.
Anyway, I know the answer to this question. Have you ever been thrown under the bus by a contractor, Tony? How do you handle it? Yeah. Do you have any ideas on this? What we can do? Anything, if anything?
Well, I have an HVAC guy, and he gets it. He understands what we're allowed to do, what we're not allowed to do, and so I like it. So I always kind of afraid, hey, do you have somebody? I'll say yes. I'll recommend this person, and it's not because I get a kickback. I don't or anything, but it's because he knows, when all we can do is do a temperature differential in the air conditioner. We're not putting gauges on it. We're not doing all these other things because let's face it, contractors do not know what we are allowed to do, what we're not allowed to do, and it's just that typical. Well, I can't believe the home inspector missed that.
Right.
Well, when you were here, everything was cleaned out in that area of the garage to get to the furnace. When we were there, it was they put everything around that. So it's always the Monday morning quarterback type of issue. But the best thing we can do is try to explain to them, when you have that guy come out, he is going to say this, and here's what we're allowed to do, here's what he's going to do, and try to explain it to them, do it during the inspection. Now, when it's just something breaks and we weren't able to see that because it wasn't there when it happened, that makes it tougher and everything. But, the best thing to do, get out there as soon as possible, talk to them, try to be there with the other person along with the client and everything because, that way you can try to explain, here's how I was able to check it. I didn't see it at this time. All of that, by the way, we weren't able to run the air conditioner because, it was, -5 degrees, that type of stuff. Explain that to them and, it's tough. I think it's always going to be, they're going to say what they want to make them seem like they're the experts and get the business. And one thing I also try to do is when we're talking to the client during the driveway speech is say, listen, the reason why people hire us is we're not trying to sell you a roof or a furnace or a water heater or something like that. We're trying to do this and we have, no vested interest. This could happen down the road and hopefully they'll remember that. But let's face it, there's a million other things that go through their mind and they don't usually remember, but you should definitely say that then.
Well, I want to add an add-on to this question. Good stuff, Tony. As far as throwing contractors under the bus, the second part of this question is contractors.
Yeah, throwing home inspectors under the bus, not throwing contractors under the bus.
I'm sorry. Yeah. You know what I mean? Throwing home inspectors under the bus. Sorry. But one of the two favorite ones that use fear, or sometimes this legitimately happens, but I've seen it not legitimate. The mold and the cracked heat exchanger. How that game's played sometimes.
Yeah.
They try to use fear. And if it's legitimately bad, aspergillus or stachybotrys or something, I'm all for it. But most guys in our area don't even check it. They just assume it's bad and want to go ahead and, do that $12,000 remediation. And they want to, $4 or $5 for a new furnace when other people have gone back in there and there wasn't a cracked heat exchanger. Do you run into this? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, on that, it's funny. You have to say, I have a sentence in there that says, visible sections of the heat exchanger appeared okay, but I'm also have like 5 different little things that are limitations right below it that says we're not allowed to check it, and even if we couldn't see every bit of it. We're not the experts, I always tell people if it's more than 18, 19 years old, get it checked out. I said the last thing I want to do is to see our clients on TV at 10 o'clock that night going, wow, that looks familiar. So once again, a lot of it's just you need to be able to preface it and be able to explain, here's what we can do, here's what we can't do. And, I've got some people, especially realtors come back to say, you've got so many things in here that's a caveat. What exactly do you do? But I'm like, why is there a rule that says you can't do this or you can do this? It's because somebody did that and they shouldn't have. So, why do we have that in our report? Just to let them know that, here's what we can do, here's what our limitations are, and, and why. And, just go from there. But let's face it, if a furnace is more than 17, 18, 19 years old, we put in there, it says possible concern. While this is functional and everything looks good, we always highly recommend having a licensed HVAC person inspect and evaluate for possible issues. And we just tell them, nothing lasts forever. People tend to think that for some reason. But, and let them know, a lot of it's just, and you put it in your inspection agreement, you put it in your report 2 or 3 times, you go over with it, somebody has to hear it 3 or 4 different ways, and hopefully it'll sink in.
Yeah, setting expectations, and letting them know, this is just a picture in time.
Exactly.
My car was fantastic when it was brand new, but sooner or later, the tires, the belts, the hoses are going to have to be replaced. Nothing lasts forever. We're starting to wind down. I really appreciate your time this morning, Tony. Another opinion I wanted to get from you is, like I said, I think it's getting better, and I know you've listened to a couple of podcasts, and you probably know this question already. But some of the forums, sometimes you see some negativity, although some of the Facebook groups, I think, are doing a better job because they're policing it.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't know if you know Billy Borner, but you guys are both Air Force. You guys should probably talk or so.
Isn't Billy out of St. Louis?
He is, and he does a pretty good job with his. And Gary's
I'm originally from St. Louis. I missed your podcast with him about two Sundays ago, and I wanted to see it, and I was like, oh crap! By the time I realized it was past time or thing, but the forums. The thing I like about the forum that we have, we're all, if you know the guy, you're not going to be ripping on him, and that's why, like the TSI one that we belong to, we all see each other once a year. We're friends. We want to help each other. It's usually when you get on a forum that, nobody knows anybody else. There's no issues with just ripping in that, how could you be so stupid? That kind of stuff. But when you know everybody and, you're like, man, Preston had a great idea, or Todd Whiting, or all these different guys that I'm friends with, I'm going to listen to them a lot more. I'm going to tender what I'm going to say, and try to help versus just, I can't believe you're that stupid or things.
Right.
So lots of friends all over the country now. And, you can't say something bad to somebody if you're friends with them. And I think that's the way to get by is belong to forums where you're people that either from, belonging to one of, Nachi, Ashi, or Nahi, or for your state organizations, like I belong to Ohio Nahi, or just, like your mentor groups like we belong to.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, we forget. This is common. My kids are both in school, they're getting older now, and it's kind of, but, when they went to elementary, hey, respect others. That's a big thing,
Yeah.
And, we're all grown people here. Why, but I think you're right. If you know somebody, it's a lot less, and other people know them too. And it's like, if you rip on that guy, you're going to look bad because that's a well-liked person.
Yeah.
and if you rip on them, it's going to make you look bad. So, just that's a common rule. Treat people the way you want to be treated. Well, switching gears here for a second, Tony. What is the wildest, craziest? And remember, this is a G-rated show. I know I do.
Okay,
what is,
we've all seen adult toys. We've all seen, but about 6 years ago, I did an inspection, and I think I told you this a couple weeks ago, but the person couldn't be there. They were moving from Charlotte, from where you're from, up to here. And I did the house and everything, and the email that she gave me wasn't her name. And I'm like, and I spelled her name wrong on the email. So I called the buyer, and she says, here's my email. You spelled it with a Y, it's supposed to be an I. And
don't say the real name, so we won't.
No, I'm not.
But, I know where you're going with this. It's a good story.
Yeah. So she said, that's my professional name. And I said, okay.
Oh boy.
And I'm talking to her. I said, by the way, I said, your agent wasn't here and everything. And how did you hear about us? She says, well, my husband and I we own several different companies, and he's really good at search engine optimization and everything. But she said, we really liked your website and everything, and it really gave us a good feeling on that. I'm like, cool. And so I got off the phone and everything. I'm thinking, I'm going to have to look up this URL at the end of her email.
Right.
Preston, she was one of the top porn stars in America.
Awesome. Don't tell her stage name or entertainment.
No, I'm not.
We don't want
to the funniest thing that went through my mind was, I figured most of them would be out in California or like Florida, Miami or something like that. And I'm going, first of all, why was she living in your town and moving to Dayton, Ohio? A little bread and butter town in Ohio. And
we're in the middle of the Bible Belt here. That's she had some questions because the roof was about 18 years old and it was really kind of getting bad. She called me her thing, and she said, oh, did you check out my website? And I'm like, yeah, I did. She goes, oh, okay. And she says, hey, when we move up here and everything, she says, my husband always said he's really good, at search engine optimization. He's really good at the internet stuff. She says, I'd love to have you and your wife come over for dinner. Oh, wow.
Okay, sure. So I went to my wife, and she's like, this might be interesting. I said, really? She goes, yeah. So we had dinner with her and her husband and her daughter. And, after we got done everything, we were talking about it because he's like, here's what you need to do. And, of course, everything he said, 6-7 years ago is no longer true just because, Google changes their algorithms like weekly. But he gave me a lot of tips and everything. And it was really good. I mean, we kept in touch with him, but they only lived there 15 months and moved back to I don't know if they'd moved back to your town or anything, but they moved back to North South Carolina, something like that. But it was kind of interesting. So that would have to be one of the most interesting things that happened. I mean, nice people you would never, ever, ever imagine that she did what she did and everything. And but it was kind of a neat thing to look back on because I mean, they liked what we did. We did a good job and everything. I learned a lot. Had a great dinner with them and stuff. But that was probably the wildest thing I've ever had to go through.
That's pretty doggone good. That's top 5 right there. I've heard that's top 5.
Yeah, but it's like funny, like when we're at the the seminars and stuff. It's kind of like I did a famous person. I mean, like Carlos down in Miami and everything. I mean, he's always doing football players and millionaires and stuff like that. That's to me that's like. The cool stuff is meeting people like that, but that was my one wildest kind of home inspection ever.
Awesome. That's good. That's going to be top 5 right there. Well, Tony, do you have any kind of resource you'd be willing to share with our listeners, whether it be a website or app or, something like Dropbox or Waze or something like that you found that might be helpful?
I hate to say this because, John Watkins did the same thing, but, and I don't know if Sean did it, but, a lot of us are starting to use Trello and everything. And I think it's what John Watkins did last week, but it really is helpful because, I mean, the worst thing to do is when you go, what's your marketing plan? I haven't written it down, but it's all in my head. Well, yeah. Well, hey, some great things have been developed on a napkin before.
That's true.
But, the biggest thing is being an ex-program manager, you can't improve if you don't have metrics to go back of what was your expectations, what was actually happened, if it didn't meet expectations or didn't, you didn't make your goal or whatever, what happened and why? You have to have a lessons learned. And so when you put it down like that, now you've got something that says, here's what I want to do on a monthly basis, and how am I going to achieve that? And Trello really works out well and everything. So I'm glad, we were able to take a look at that and everything. And right now, that's what I've been doing, working on my performance to plan for 2016 so that I can make my numbers.
Awesome. It's on my list. I am checking that out. I was pretty impressed with it. Well, is there anything, Tony, that you're working on right now that has you excited about?
Yeah, since I got the database stuff done, what I'm doing is I use the AHIT Inspected software package for the last 11 years. I've rewritten it about 4 or 5 times, and, it's great, but, it took forever for my first couple of guys to learn it and everything. But right now we're moving to a different software reporting package, and so for the past, I think I've got 35 hours of this right now, and I'm about maybe 2/3 of the way through rewriting everything so that I can drop all these different narratives, report narratives into that. And, now's the time to do it. I can't remember. Is it Miriam, the Expect It Like a Girl?
Oh, yeah, Miriam.
Yeah, she made she made a comment on your podcast that I remember from last summer when she did it, or I guess it was about last summer. She says, never migrate to another software package during the summer when it's really busy.
Yeah.
So I took that nugget from her, and I'm going, okay, let's do it in December when it's a little bit slower and everything. And right. I could have just taken the out-of-the-box package, but I wanted to do 2 things. I wanted to make it as easy as possible so that when we do roll it out to the other inspectors, that everything looks kind of familiar. Sure, it's a different format, but when you click on kitchen, you still have, the 5 narratives for a leaky faucet, the 5 narratives for, the electrical on the window and, the stove and everything, dishwasher. And also, I don't want it to be so vastly different that the agent, let's face it, the buyer's not going to go, well, that doesn't look like the one I did 10 years ago. Well, of course it doesn't. But, I want to make it as easy as possible so that when we do hand that out to the realtors, they go, wow, that's cool, it's neat, it's updated, it allows you to do some new stuff, but it's not so vastly different that they're going, geez, I'm going to get rid of you just because, your report's not like it used to be. So that's this month's big project now that I've got all the other things going on.
Awesome. We're winding down here, Tony. Just 3 more questions. Yep. I know I've held you for a while. I really appreciate all the value you're trying.
And anybody who's listening to this, thank you for toughing it out this long, too. So.
No, I'm sure they, I love listening to home inspection stuff because I listen to podcasts all the time, and I love them. And, I'm like, man, it's just not, I wish there was one about home inspectors, and if you belong to various, groups and things, sometimes they put out some, and they're great, but, as soon as you listen to them, like, you have an appetite for more, and it's good to, hear, certain things. You're sitting there nodding your head going, yep, I've been through that. And then every once in a while they say something that's totally new, and it's like, wow, that's a great idea. I hadn't thought of that, so I love listening to it. Well, Tony, if you had to move to a brand new town equal to the size of the town that you live in now, the Dayton or the area, everything, you still had all your equipment, all your knowledge, all that, room and board taken care of, basically everything taken care of, but you just didn't know anybody. You had to start all over with, realtors, clients and all that, but you had $5,000. What are you going to do in that first week to market your business?
Well, my wife and I actually talked about this last night just because I'm like, okay, if we were going to move down to Orlando to be closer to the Mouse House, of course I would just call the agents or the home inspectors I know down there. But first thing I would do is go to realtrends.com and look at the top producers. Also,
that's Real Trends?
Realtrends.com and everything, yeah. Okay. You can drill down. It's not the best website, but it's the only one I found that you can find. In fact, Ken gave this to us about a year and a half ago. And drill down to the top producers. Then I would also, there's a new thing that you can see that you can drill down to the top groups or the team. Because let's face it, if you're trying to do this, go to the top producers, you've got to get one person to get one person. But if you can get a team, all you got to do is get the team owner or the team boss and everything to say, yeah, I like what you're doing. I'll let, now you got one guy to say yes, but you might have, 3, 4, 5, even 10 agents that now go yes. So that would be my little nugget right there is try to go for the team versus the top producing teams versus the top producers, because I think you get more bang for your buck. If you get one guy that goes into you, then you might have 10 people right there off the bat.
Right.
And then also the next thing I would be doing, which is what I'm trying to do right now, I need to find a Preston / Kayla Trotman marketing person that preferably a retired or a realtor who just did feel like they found out they didn't like to do it, but they still like they made a lot of friends. That would be the marketing person for me. Somebody that can go, yeah, here's the people I would recommend at. Oh, this office is really tough. I mean, somebody that knows some of that stuff, and then be able to get them out and really start hitting the street and everything. And then start working on your list of people, and then start doing mailers to get your foot in the door. Then.
Oh, good stuff, man. Good stuff. Tons of gold. That was worth the price of admission right there.
Okay.
Well, admission was free, so that was worth more than.
Yeah.
But no. Is there anything, Tony, that I didn't ask you that I should have?
No, not really. I think I've I'm pretty easy to get a hold of and everything. If you have any questions or anything, but I do have a question for you, Preston, because the hardest part that I'm having with having a multi-inspector firm is going back to what I said. I'm always watching. It's like, hey, if you want free food, I always see that about every week and a half on your Facebook page.
Sure.
Realtors just, you walk in, there's a gatekeeper, there's usually the broker, and there might be 1 or 2 agents in there in an office of 100, and they just don't meet like they used to. Everybody's virtual. I think you would have a better chance at meeting 4 or 5 agents at the Starbucks around the corner from the office than trying to find them in the office. And my question to you is how are you able to do that unless they just kind of not, they're just not virtual like we are here? What would you suggest that I could do? Because I'm having a hard time trying to get into some of these offices to try to do lunch and learns because you're just nobody.
Sure. Well, okay. Well, first of all, and I'm with you, and I agree that even in our market, they'll have an office of 200 people. Maybe 30 or 40 will come to the meeting, but 30 or 40 is still pretty good. I'll get in front of 30 or 40 people any day of the week. But probably a lot of listeners already know this. Most real estate offices have sales meetings, usually on Tuesday. I don't know why, but they're always on Tuesday. I guess because Monday and Friday's out. Tuesday's just a good day. Everybody's kind of hunkered down. I will tell you right now that most of them either suspend them or just don't have them in the summer. Because summer's crazy. Everybody's busy. Everybody's on vacation. It's when kids start back to school. So what you really want to do is be working kind of towards the end of the summer to get on their calendar for the fall. Because they do, weekly or monthly sales meetings. And, I would lead first with the free food and, see if there's a time when they, have somebody special, or if they have somebody coming in teaching CE or something like that where, you're getting paired up. It's sort of like, the Hornets, when the Cavaliers come to town, LeBron James, everybody's going to that game. So find out if there's already somebody, a hot ticket coming in, something like that. Another thing is when you're around the offices or whatever, a lot of times you'll see stuff posted, so-and-so's coming to speak about mega listings or, how to get more listings or blah, blah, blah. And they're a real hot-to-trot agent, from somewhere else. And everybody wants to know, how they do it. Man, offer to bring food. Hey, have you got somebody bringing some free food? I'd love to do that. So that's a big thing. Also try to pair up with anybody who's teaching continuing education for real estate agents because they all need it. And a lot of times if they do it in-house, they can get it a little bit cheaper than maybe, with an instructor or something like that. The other thing would be, try to figure out a way when you do bring food to really do it up on a budget. I mean, we can't spend, we can't pay $500-600 for a caterer to come in because if you did that, you could only do it once or twice and you'd be done.
Yeah.
But figure out, on a budget how you can really. There's lots of good ideas out there. I know the Troutmans are great on that. A couple other people. You can go on Pinterest stuff. On a budget, what's some really cool stuff you can do where you're not forgettable. You know what I mean? Where, like, hey, we've had a lot of people bring lunch in here. Everybody brought pizza, but you did this thing and went all out. So that way you're kind of remembered. And then the second part is, if you got a speaking thing, and listen, that gatekeeper, that broker in charge, they want a better attendance at their meeting too. So what you could do is say, hey, I'm bringing lunch here. I'm doing something special. I'll help you promote this if you would give me your agent's list, and I'll help. So you can email the agents out ahead of time or mail them and say, hey, I'm bringing something special this day. You see what I mean? And that's a win-win. More people come to the meeting, and you're also helping out that broker because they want more people to attend their meetings as well.
That's true. Yeah.
And they're independent contractors, so they can't make their meetings mandatory. Because of the independent contractor, you can't make any of that. You can, highly suggest it, but if you make it really, really appealing via really good information, good food, or some hotshot agent coming there, and another possibility I've seen this done. You can sponsor one of these big trainers to come in. I know Michael Mayer. You can pay to have him come in. He's a big trainer, out in Kansas City, you can pay, it's a couple of grand, maybe 3 or 4, but, and then you basically have it. You have all the agents come in. I know Brian Bassini, I don't know, he might be pretty expensive, but, there's certain real estate trainers that are highly well known in the real estate industry. If you could get a venue and get them there, I mean, it costs you several $1,000s, but man, I guarantee you your competition's not doing that. And if you could do that, that would put you miles ahead. And that would also make you perceive you as you giving back, instead of you. Because if you think about it, we're always going to the offices, give me business, give me business, give me business. What are we doing, instead of being a pest, become that welcome guest type sort of thing. You know what I mean?
Exactly. That's a good nugget there. I didn't think about. I mean, I know I've seen some of the other home inspectors like Lance down in Dallas and everything. I think he was sponsoring one of the Bold. I know that Wally down in Florida has done some of the Bold stuff with KW and everything. So yeah, that's a good idea and everything. I mean, just go in there and say, what do you guys have for the next year, and how can we kind of sponsor that? That's a good idea then.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Tony, we appreciate it. It's an early Sunday morning, and you have been more than generous with your time. I know the listeners appreciate it. How can they give you some likes on your Facebook? You have a Facebook page?
Yeah, just type in Accutech, ACCUTECH, Accutech Home Inspections. We're in Dayton, Ohio. And if you like Disney trivia, for 4 years, every day I do Disney trivia for some stupid reason. But
no, it's good stuff. Yeah. I like it.
I do it for Meg, your wife, and I think she's like the only person that ever gives me a like. It seems like on a consistent basis. So I do it for Meg. But I know you guys love Disney too, and everything. But biggest thing is get a life and everything. I mean, I did that for so many years, and I missed out on vacations, I missed out on a lot of stuff. But stick your head out of the computer once in a while. Do some fun stuff. Even if you have to take vacation, you have to refer, your clients to another inspector, who's, that you trust or something like that. But, life's too short. Get out and do some fun stuff with the family and everything. I mean, the business will still be there, except in that one case with an agent that I lost. But, what you do is the last thing you want to do is have, 1 or 2 agents that are 50, 60% of your business either, too. So you want to kind of, distribute it out and have I'd rather have, 100 agents that I get 2 or 3, and then have a few that I get, 40 or 50. So, but yeah, just enjoy life while you got it.
I hear you, brother. Well, if you would go to Accutech, give this guy a like and friend him on Facebook. It's Tony Burk, and that's B-U-R-K-E, correct?
No, B-U-R-K, no E.
Oh, there's no E. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
But yeah, friend Tony, and if is there an email address they can email you if they wanted to know more about you?
Yeah, just Tony, Tony at Accutech, ACCUTECH home inspections with an S at the end, .com.
Awesome. Well, Tony, I'm going to let you get on with your day, buddy. I really appreciate your time.
Sounds good. Thanks, Preston.
Thank you. Have a good one, Tony.
See you. Okay, bye-bye.
All right, bye.
Thanks for checking out the Successful Home Inspector podcast. You can find show links at thesuccessfulhomeinspector.com. Check out the website for special offers, information, and other resources. Thanks again for listening to the Successful Home Inspector podcast. And remember to check back for new episodes. The Successful Home Inspector podcast is brought to you by Preston Sandlin and Home Inspection Carolina.